Barend, welcome to this next breakdown. Um, a topic that we talk about often is, hey, in which part of the recruitment process can AI make the most impact? And the good news is that now one of our clients actually is also a member of a recruitment and a recruiter organization, did a big research to talk to recruiters and to really measure in which part of the process will AI make the most impact. And the non-surprising outcome was that this is all processes around interviewing. So steps before the interview, steps during the interview, and steps post-interview are the most administrative load to recruiters. So Barend, can you describe in your vision why AI is making the most impact in the interviewing process?
Yeah, it's not a surprising conclusion, and it was a pretty significant group. It's not that they asked 5 recruiters or something.
No, hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you look at the impact of AI, I think it's always interesting to drill down what is impact. I think for us it's 2 main axes where you have to move on. One is quality, so does it get better, and the other one is efficiency. Do I need to spend less time on it? Then there is a third secret X that is about adoptions. Like, are people willing to let AI in that part of the process?
Yeah.
And if the conclusion is interviews, extremely important part of the recruitment process. It's also a part where the recruiter wants to focus on the candidate, be in the conversation. Although there are a lot of other things that need to happen as well, note taking, making sure you capture everything. And the things you don't want to do that cost a lot of time in preparation for the interview, during the interview, but also after the interview, these are actually things that AI can do really well, also on a quality from a quality perspective. So that's why I think it's not a surprise that recruiters and maybe the last part, they're also comfortable. Like, it's not in making the hiring decision; it's literally taking over tasks that I don't want to do anyway.
Yeah, and I also think it is really fitting the current use case with AI perfectly, right? Because AI can also do a really great job in executing the tasks that humans do. And that is, for example, with sourcing a lot harder. So we explained this more often, but maybe for this conversation, it's good to share a use case of how AI can impact the interview. AI can be part of all the interviews, and you can literally train AI and delegate the task to AI that you normally do with a human. Think about interviewing notes. Think about, hey, how do we create a job description after an intake with a hiring manager, or after an interview with a candidate? How do we write a perfect candidate profile to the hiring manager or the client if you're an agency? But I think most importantly, and that's also where most time goes to in the end, is the population of the ATS or the CRM. How does all the information that you literally get out of a conversation, usually it turns into vaporware after a conversation, but now AI can literally, you can tell your ATS literally, hey, give me all this information about this candidate. And with a good connection with strong AI, you can literally pre-populate all that information in the ATS without any human effort. And I think that's also what I think is different with, if you look at vacancy of sourcing, for example. In sourcing, we are still figuring it out all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talk about AI. We talked about this before. Under the hood, it's called a language model. Why is it called a language model? It's insanely good with language. What is interviews? Interviews is a lot of words, a lot of unstructured conversations where you talk about the dog, about family life, about ambition, about why are you successful in your current role? And all those parts of the conversation happen in a random order. And then we have to turn that into something structured, like documentation, updating the ATS. And that's where AI is really good at. Now, sourcing. Obviously, AI can also browse LinkedIn, right? Because just like a recruiter. I mean, we build POCs around this as well. You can look at LinkedIn profiles. The interesting part is there's not so much to see there, right? If you go to a LinkedIn profile, there is a limited amount of information, so there's not a lot of value that you can add apart from speed on looking at those profiles. There is not really a quality improvement. And yeah, I think that's the reason why in sourcing we're still experimenting. Like, okay, we can make speed, but how can we really impact the sourcing part of the recruitment process? While in the interview stage, before, during, and after the interview, it's so clear, and the benefits are right in front of you.
Yes, so we will actually share the outcome of the research in the description here below, and shout out to Brian who did this research with his team. But in this interview, it says that the initial duration of the interviewing process takes around 7 hours of the time as a recruiter, and post AI, it is only 2.5 hours. On a group of 300 recruiters, it saves 51,000 hours. In total, and they even put money to that, like with a 1.7 million annual value, which that creates. So,
51,000 hours. You're saying, right?
Yeah.
Let that sink in, right? That's 2,000 days. That's multiple human years that went to waste until now.
And the fun part is, it is. The outcome of the post-AI process is so much higher because the quality of the interview will increase and the admin load will decrease so much that recruiters can spend time on things that really matter. So the benefit is so obvious. It saves you time. It gets better. It saves you money. And that's why I love the interview angle is if you look at sourcing, for example, it's making an impact on recruiters and on companies. But it's hard to really make the case that it's making impact on candidates as well, because a lot of mass sourcing driven by AI now is actually making things worse for candidates. But in the interviewing process, it is actually also bringing a renewed focus on the candidate, with recruiters being able to really connect with people and not being like a typing machine during interviews. So I love the fact that that is really an advantage for the recruiter and the organization, but also really an advantage for the candidates.
Yeah. Now, in sourcing, AI turns recruiters into spam machines. Nobody likes it. What is also interesting is that in this post-interview, when you talk about updating the CRM system or the ATS system, we also get the question, but why is AI so much better in it than humans? The fun part is AI is not better in it, but recruiters just don't like it. They don't do it. It's like my kids. If my kids fill in the washing machine, it's also a big mess. If I do it myself, it's better. The reason is not my kids can't do it, they just don't want to do it. I think it's the same with recruiters. They don't like filling in the ATS because there are more important things for them to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I also think it's if you literally think about the time it costs, is crazy. One of our clients said, usually I did one interview and one client conversation in a morning, and now I'm doing 2 client conversations, 2 interviews in the morning, and the output is perfectly structured. So I think that is it's almost a no-brainer if you think about it.
I think the next step, if you look ahead, so step 1 is get AI in there to take over the laborious tasks that you shouldn't do in the first place. And the next step is to improve it even more. Because if you look at the way we set up our systems right now, our CRM and ATS systems, it's already set up in a way to acknowledge the fact that recruiters don't want to fill in those fields. That's why there are only 20 fields in your ATS. That's why we don't ask too much. And I think that what we already see is after you implement AI in that process, the next step is, okay, it's taking over the tasks that I shouldn't have been doing in the first place, but now can I give it additional tasks to make it even better? And that will also drive the talent pool, and anything you can do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's also why I believe the integration and the synergy it needs to find with the ATS is really fundamental, because you have information, that information needs to live somewhere, and then you need to be able to actually get that information out there and actually let it think with you. But that is just complete renewed new combinations of technologies that redefine the day of a recruiter and of a candidate. Okay, Barend, I think that was a good breakdown. So the conclusion here and answer to all these questions, where should I start if I implement AI in my hiring process? Our recommendation is to start with the interview and all the processes around it.
Absolutely. And check out the report. It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Barend.